Um, Good evening, everyone. Monday night, 37 days, which is 5 weeks and 2 days for the Omer. And obviously, we are all still reeling from the blow of Lag Baomer. Yesterday, I went to to a shiva call for one of the people who died, who was the son-in-law of my Rav, the one who I call for Psak Halacha, what I do, Rav Hagen. And over there was Reb Tzvi Cheshin, Gon Agodol. Let me see, hold on. Is it any better? Okay, so there's no noise here, so anyhow. And there were a few really startling facts that were talked about and were presented. You know, the first ready transfer of what occurred Dafka on Lag Baomer, the day of the Simcha of Shem Yochai, is of course the inauguration of the Mishkan, where the two sons of Aaron perished in the Mishkan. So one of the remozim that were given there was that, you know, where this whole thing happened was the Hadlaka of Toldos Aaron, right? Toldos Aaron, the children of Aaron. And another incredible fact that was presented was that the entire sphere from Pesach to Shavuos is a zman of judgments, of dinam. And there's a man Omer that says that the entire time of Gehenna is just these 7 weeks. I'm not sure what this refers to. But anyhow, the tikkun, I didn't follow exactly all the different shemas that go on, is that the name of judgments is the Shem Elokim. And when the amelioration of the judgments is being done by Lag Baomer, then a certain configuration of the name happens. And when it's not, Chas v'Sholem, that leaves the letters from the name Elokim, it leaves unmitigated the letters of Lamed and Yud and Hey from the name Elokim. Lamed, Yud, and Hey is Gematria 45. 45 people that perished. if you take a look at the list of all those who perished, one cannot help but being struck by an astonishing fact that every single segment that keeps Torah and mitzvahs was represented in that list. You had Chabad, you had Belz, you had Vizhnitz, you had Breslov, you had Dati Leumi, you had Modern American, you had Hasidish American, you had Skver, you had Litvish, you had Hasidish, you had every single segment of Am Yisrael was presented there. And there's even one person from Chabad. Everybody's there. I think that the group that is most widely represented is Breslov. That's 7 people. And the father of the 2 sons, the lost 2 sons, is an old friend of mine, Rabbi Nachman el-Haddad. So he was interviewed for television, and they asked him how it was, and he said that the entire night, until everything was settled, whatever it is, he said the entire night he was davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said he was asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please don't take away the emunah from me. Again and again and again, please don't take away the emunah from me. And he said, Baruch Hashem, Hashem didn't. And my Rav, Simcha Balev, that spoke to me this morning, he knows Rav Nachman el-Haddad quite well, and we spoke about it. And I told him what he said, that he was just down here, but also just don't take the emunah away from me. Don't take the emunah from me. And my Rav said, this is how a Jew talks. This is how a Jew talks. Then he called me back again and he asked me to get his phone number because he has difficulties walking and he can't get to him. Stunning. So allow me to share the screen with you of the story where we're holding, and let's continue and see what is going on here. All right. So we said that the sun and the moon, they met and they were discussing their problems. And the sun was talking about the tree that shines too much on the tree, it dries it up. And the moon said, I have a problem with my feet. For the demons, they have no strength in their feet, so they come, they come in and suck off the life force from my feet. This is what the moon said. So the sun said, that's not a big problem. That's your problem. He told him about the way, this junction. Let me just turn this on here. Sorry. It's about this junction. The different paths are leading out of there. And there's dust Lashon Kodesh is avak. There's a dust of tzaddikim, dust of Rishaim, dust of heretics, dust of the insane, and then there's the dust for tzaddikim who are led in chains by landowners, by noblemen, and they have no strength in their feet. So they put some of this dust, this avak, under their feet, so they'll have strength in their feet. So the sun tells the moon, so go there. There's plenty of dust there, and you will have healing for your feet. And this is what we're holding, and the cripple heard all this, that the sun told the moon. And meanwhile, he looked at another side of the diamond, and he saw it was written there, that whoever grabs that side will be transported to the path from which many paths branch out. So he grasped that side, and he was brought there. He placed his feet on the path, whose dust was healing for the feet, and was immediately healed. So we learned a few things from that. We talked about that dust, that avak, is that thing that the outcome of the fight between Yaakov Avinu and the minister of Esav, Esav Mem. And he says, V'yavik ish imoi, and a person wrestled with him, Adaloi Sashacham, till the dawn came up. So the Medrash says, I believe it's a Medrash, that Adaloi Sashacham, that the dust went all the way up to Kisa Kavod. That the war of Yaakov Avinu with the minister of Esav has left an imprint, a reshimu, a result in this world that gives chizak to every single Jew. Whoever who is fighting against his Yetzer Hara. Rabbeinu says that the world, let's take a little break from that. Rabbeinu says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, this is Torah Mates. Arizal says in the beginning of Etz Chaim that when the world was created, initially there was no place for the world to be created. Kadosh Baruch Hu was everything. So Kadosh Baruch Hu had to create a vacuum, as it were, a vacated space inside. We spoke about Rebbe Akiva before. Last week we spoke about before Lag Baomer. This inner chol hapanai, and this is inside that chol hapanai. The thing that is achieved in that chol hapanai is that the omnipresence of Hashem Yisbarach is concealed. So it allows for the illusion, as it were, that there's a Bria, there's a world. Rabbeinu says, as we learn in Torah Chaf Aleph, that that chal apana, that vacant space, represents a contradiction, paradox, because you must say two opposite things about the nature of that vacant space. On one hand, you have to say that that space is vacant. HaKadosh Baruch Hu isn't there, kiviyachol. On the other hand, there isn't such thing as a reality without HaKadosh Baruch Hu in it. So, these are two contradicting notions. If you say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there, then there's no bchira anymore. If you say the HaKadosh Baruch Hu isn't there, that's kfira. Both ways. Rabbeinu says, inside that vacant space, this is where all the worlds are created. Rabbeinu says that reality, and one of the stunning representations of Kabbalah Arizal, Rabbeinu brings it down, is that this happens in the heart of every single person. Every single person is called to create that vacant space within his heart and build the midos. Make sure that this chalapana is not ruined. And as the result in Masim Torah, mitzvahs, which is the manifestation of Midas HaMalchus. When you do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you should do, you know that Hashem is king. That is the gilui, the exposure of the Malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rabbeinu says that in the heart, David HaMelech says, "V'libi cholol b'kirbi," and my heart is vacant inside me. Rashi says that David HaMelech has killed off the Yetzer Hara that was in his heart with fasting. And Rabbeinu says that the omnipresence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu before creation is represented with the natural drive of every single Jew that yearns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The yearning of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is without end. And because it is endless, it cannot be expressed, because there are no kalim for that. So what a Jew needs to do, he needs to tamper his excitement. This is equal to the creation of the vacant space. Tamper the deluge, tamper the tsunami, tamper the overpowering endlessness. On one hand is the Kadosh Baruch Hu, on the other hand is the yearning of a Jew to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Then, in the heart itself, you have to make sure that you build inside that heart all the worlds. all the worlds are this Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Ra. The Yetzer Tov is good thoughts that you're thinking, how am I going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What am I going to do? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll fast, maybe I'll do this, I'll daven like this, I'll learn like that. That's the Yetzer Tov. That builds these plans that you're making, these thoughts that you're thinking. It builds the Olamus, it builds all the universes, all the realms inside your heart, until it's all being expressed with mitzvahs, Masmut Tevin, which is the Malchus. On the other hand, you have the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is bad thoughts. The bad thoughts, we might think, what am I doing already? I'm just thinking. Yeah, the bad thoughts is Yetzer Hara himself. It plugs up, it fills up the Chalapana. So the world's going to be created in it. A person needs to be extremely diligent in thought control. When we are learning the entire struggle of the cripple, who represents each and every one of us, represents the struggles that we all have. On one hand, we see that he's a cripple. We are cripples. We take a look at ourselves. We take a look, especially in view of what happened. And that kind of loss that these families sustained. And you can come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and speak to him and feel so small, feel so puny. Here I am struggling and bothered by peanuts. Literally. By shtisim, by nonsense. And there are these people who are lifting a whole mountain on their shoulders. And there's a tremendous sense of shame. I mean, where the heck am I? How? I mean, I'm upset. I'm upset about my problems. How dare I? I mean, on the other hand, what can you do? This is who you are. This is your life. These are your problems. And you need to come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you need to talk from where you are. That's, you realize that, I realize I'm so off base. I'm so totally out of it. Where are the proportions? What are the proportions between me and it's like, but nevertheless, I realized that I must realize that this is my life. This is my life. Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't put me through such an nisayon. But none of us will ever be Dr. Son. But this is what my life is. And not only do I need to accept it, I need to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help with the things that I need. As puny, as insignificant, as pathetic, as pitiful as they may be, that's my life. These are my problems. That's the thing that I need. All the koyach to go through all this, to fight through all this, is that avak, that dust, that was raised all the way to Kisa Kavod, from the struggle of Yaakov Avinu and the minister or the prince of Esav. There are two things that say that reach the Kisa Kavod. One of them is that dust, that avak of Yaakov Avinu and the prince of Esav reaching the Kisa Kavod. And on the other hand, it says Gdoilo Tshuva that reaches the Kisa Kavod. It's not a coincidence. That struggle of who am I and what am I doing, you need to understand that, as we said before, and must be reiterated again and again, it's very easy to slip into despair when you look back on your life. And you're like, whoa, I can't believe I did that. I just can't believe I did that. It's not even a question of what was I thinking. I know what I was thinking. I don't want to repeat what I was thinking. Forget about how it could be so dense. Forget about that. What do I do now when I did those things? I thought these thoughts. I spoke these diburim. I did those deeds. What do I do with it now? How do I cope with it? So we said that this is the tzaddikim that are being led in chains by landowners, noblemen, whatever you want to call it. And they're being forced to go to all these places. You have no idea why you had to go through all these things. I have no idea why I did what I did. But as long as I fell into it, I was led into it. It's not something that they said, something, let me go and do chas v'chalei these averos, and then I'll do tshuva. That's not what I did. That's not what you did. The thing is that we stumbled into doing things, thinking or saying whatever things that being involved with things that, if we have any, a drop, an iota of seichel, we regret bitterly. Because in the depth of the kilipot, there are sparks of neshamas that belong to us, belong to our shores. They come from the same root as we do. And the only way to extricate him is we ourselves fall into these kind of things. It gets to get us to those kind of places. And that with almost simian strength, we extricate ourselves from those places. We pull out those sparks from those places where they are. There was one principle that I was told by my Rav, I don't know, almost 40 years ago, give or take. And he said to me, the most important thing is that at the end, when you reach the end of your time in this world, you will be where you need to be. In other words, it's not just like, yeah, but I was here, but I was it. That is not what counts. It kind of, are you where you're supposed to be now? And B'ezrat Hashem, after 120 years, are you where you're supposed to be? If you are, it's okay. That's the main thing. That's the whole point about the past. So you do tshuva. When the seichel tells the emunah, when the sun tells the moon, there is this way that tzaddikim, this is us, the full Hashem Yirachem to those places. And still he calls them tzaddikim because they didn't mean to. They are doing avodas Hashem. He says they get from this dust, there's a lot of dust there, of that avok. In other words, any kind of strengthening of chizuk and avodas Hashem, the minister of Esav can blow away. This ruach sorrow, that's storm wind. Of tzaddikim, of mishugoim, of rashoim, everything. But the dust of the road of the tzaddikim that are led in chains by noblemen, which is a sitra achra, and are forced to go through the abyss of those dirty deeds done dirt cheap that we have been into. That dust will never end, will never finish. The Ruach Sarah cannot blow that dust away. That's what the sun tells the moon, and this is what the cripple understood. And he went there and he put his feet into that dust, and immediately he was healed. There's a certain point in your avodas Hashem that you reach a certain kind of equilibrium. You're in. You're not perfect. You don't, whatever it is, but you're in. That means that you put your legs already on the dust. Then comes a separate tikkun. How do you get back all the things that were stolen away from you? That's something else. But the important thing, as we will learn, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll talk about it next week, is the fact that when he comes to that road, he knows which path has what dust. as we will learn, Mitzvah Hashem, as we will read, he makes packages from every single separate dust. And he knows every single dust, what it is, its the propensity of every single dust. The one for tzaddikim, the one for insane, the one for... He knows everything, and he makes packages. How does he know? How does he know? The answer is, there are actually two answers. One, he heard it from the sun and the moon. The sun, which is a seichel, told the moon, about those ways, so he knew. But the second thing, he was holding on to the diamond. The diamond is a tzaddik. The tzaddik takes you where you need to go, and he makes clear to you that which you need to understand. If you were just to go to those paths without the guidance of the tzaddik, you wouldn't know which way is which. Without a tzaddik, you could step onto a road of insanity, and you would never know any different, because the prime typification, description, nature of insanity is that you're positive that everybody else is crazy. You're the only one who got it right. The tzaddik is the one that gauges very carefully how much fire is burning and how much dust there is to tamper the fire. It's a big inyan in Hilchos Shabbos. The way that Chazal said this, that all the different prohibitions of bishul, the Shabbos, of cooking on Shabbos. They say that a lot of different kind of ways of, you have to cover the fire, you have to put the blech, all these things, they come from something that, he says, Shema Yechate Beremetz, that in their days they would cook on coals, and as the coals died down, Shabbos comes in, so there was ashes, and inside the ashes there were burning embers. That is called remetz. And a lot of the prohibitions, the rabbinical prohibitions of Shabbos, are from the chashash of maybe you will see that your food isn't as cooked as you wanted it to be. It's called Shema Yechate Beremetz. Maybe you'll dig around in the remetz, to try to put some burning embers next to the pot. And you're chayiv mishum bishul, you're chayiv mishum mavir, mishum mechaber, all those things. So the fire has to be covered. The ash is supposed to be driven away. All those. At the heart of a Jew, we said that chal hapanei, in the heart of a Jew, needs to be created by tampering with the overwhelming urge and yearning and burning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That comes the question, how much is too much? How much is tempering down to the point that the fire doesn't burn anymore? How much should it burn? How much should it be covered with dust, with ashes? This is what you get from the tzaddik. That balancing act. How much to drive, how much to hold back. This you get from the tzaddik. What to do, which road leads where. That knowledge, that shining of the sun and the moon, the das and the emunah, you get from the tzaddik. He held the diamond took him right to the place where the sun speaks to the moon, when the seichel speaks to the emunah. Then he understands about too much seichel. Then he understands where the emunah is sick, which is the legs, the feet of the moon, and what the refuah is. And he gets there and he put his feet in there. All this you get by kiras tzaddikim, being close to the tzaddikim. Bezat Hashem should help us all. First of all, to be mekayim. These two directives of the death of the children of Aaron. One of them is Vayidam Aaron. And the other one says V'chol Yisrael, Chol Beis Yisrael Yivkos Asreifa, Shasarf Hashem. And the entire Am Yisrael will mourn the fire which Hashem has burnt. To be mekayim the proper burning, the proper mourning for that particular fire. To be mishtativ. There's a tzivui to mourn for the fire that Hashem has burnt. Listen, it's a natural thing for people to, like, as they say in English here, but for the grace of Hashem goes I, right? I was there, I wasn't there, my children weren't there, Baruch Hashem. They're all, Baruch Hashem, I'm not part of it. Okay, so it's not like, no, it is Nogia to you. It is Nogia to me. We have a commandment to mourn. But we also have a commandment to keep silent. What does it mean, a commandment to keep silent? I remember, one of the tainas that Fry people have about Yiddishkeit is supposedly that in Yiddishkeit you're not allowed to ask questions, which of course is a fallacy. You're allowed to ask any question as long as at the end of the question there's a question mark and not an exclamation mark. Why? As long as it's said with a question mark, is a valid question. Why with an exclamation mark is not a valid question? Because it's not a question. It's an exclamation. Hashem should help us with Zat Hashem that this sacrifice, it took place on the day of the Simcha of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right outside the opening of the cave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right there, in the Nekuda of Chatzos. 45 people represent the entire Shomer Shabbos community, from the most modern to the frumest. Every part of Am Yisrael was there. Hashem should be zeicha to Yeshua Shlema, to Geula Shlema, Bechlal, Befrat, each one whatever he needs. That Hashem will be zeicha to see with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'ezrat Hashem soon in our days. Amen.